is Walter Price. I'm going to be your moderator this evening. We've had other forums here, supervisor of elections, school board, county commissioners, but one of these three fine gentlemen here is most likely going to be our next sheriff. And I'm sure you all know that that happens to be the most powerful position in the whole county, because the sheriff is the one that can tell the feds to take a hike when they come here to try to get our guns and property. So our event tonight is being sponsored by three separate independent organizations: the North Lake Tea Party, the Lake Federated Republican Women's Club, and the Republican Party of Lake County. I happen to be a proud member of all three of those organizations, including the Ladies Club.
Me too.
By the way, if you happen to be a member of more than, or two or more of those organizations, just stand real quick so we can say who you are. All right, quite a few. Thank you. We have a couple of incumbents with us this evening. I see Sheriff Borders is in the back. Sheriff Borders. Senator Alan Hayes is in the back. Senator Hayes. Yes. Chief Broadway is here in Claremont. Did I miss any incumbents? Okay. Now, since our host of the evening, our hosting organization is the North Lake Tea Party, and they work off donations to be able to provide these events, we're going to pass around a donation bucket on each side. Feel free to put in whatever you would like for a donation to keep the Tea Party going, so we can bring you more events like this. Very quickly, I'm going to tell you about a couple of events that are coming out, because I don't want you to miss out on them. On Saturday at Donnelly Park in downtown Mount Dora from 10 to 12 is a presidential volunteer rally. It coincided with the end of the convention tonight, because we will know for sure who our nominee is. And we'll be looking for volunteers that want to help out in the presidential campaign and in the Republican races for the general election. And there'll be plenty of opportunities for people to volunteer, such things as voter registration drives, door-to-door canvassing, phone banking, sign placement, debate and election watch party, sign waving, social media, absentee ballot, poll watchers, and media development. So there's plenty of opportunity for everyone to get involved and help out with the presidential campaign. Turn the volume down. Okay. So that's Saturday, 10 to 12 at Donnelly Park. Food will be provided. Then on August the 3rd, in this room, 2 weeks from now, roughly, we're going to have our last forum that's going to be for the candidates for the Florida State Senate, which will include Marlene O'Toole, David G., and Dennis Baxley. So you don't want to miss our final forum of the campaign season. And on August the 6th, in Mount Dora, is the annual Lincoln Reagan Dinner. This is the large gala that's put on by the Republican Party every year. You can buy your tickets online at lakecountyrepublicans.org, or you can go to the headquarters in Tavares and get them as well. But you don't want to miss out on that. We have Bill Federer coming. He's a nationally known speaker, radio talk show host, author. And we also have Blaise Ngolia coming. He's the chairman of the Republican Party of Florida. He's the one that made the announcement at the convention the other night that all 99 delegates went to Trump. He'll be at our dinner as well. The rules for the forum Or, since there's 3 of them, because the last one we did had 7 candidates, so it took quite a while. But since there's 3, we can get some more questions to them, but we're going to give them a little more time. They're going to have 2 minutes for opening statements, 90 seconds to answer a question, 30 seconds if there's any rebuttal necessary, and then they'll have 2-minute closings. We have some prepared questions. And by the way, this is the first time that we have not provided the questions ahead of time to the candidates. So they do not know what they're going to be asked. We figured that if they can't answer questions about the job, then they don't need the job. So, is that too blunt? You catch my drift. So, we also have some audience questions that have been written by the audience, and we'll try to work in as many of those as we can as well. So we're going to start with Peyton, and we're going to come this way, and then we'll start with Andre, and then we'll start with Dan, and we'll keep alternating so that the first question is asked in an alternate manner. So, with no further ado, and I'm not going to forget this time, we will start with our opening statements. So Peyton, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Well, good evening. Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. It's an honor to be here. My name is Peyton Grinnell, and I am a candidate for sheriff here in Lake County. And I am honored to be supported and endorsed by our current sheriff, Gary Borders. You know, I was born and raised in this great Republican county. I graduated Leesburg High School in 1986, at which time I joined the Marine Corps. I was assigned to the Marine Corps Special Operations Command Fleet Anti-Terrorism Strike Team, where I underwent extensive training in counterterrorism tactics, held a top-secret security clearance, and served 2 combat deployments. In 1993, I went to the Police Academy in Eustis, and in 1994, I was hired at the Sheriff's Office. I worked in uniform patrol, served as a field training officer, worked in criminal investigations, organized crime, gang intelligence, community services, served as a public information officer, and also as the training center director. I promoted up through the ranks. I've been to extensive senior leadership training, to include graduating from the FBI's National Academy in Quantico, Virginia, the Administrative Officers Course at the Southern Police Institute, University of Louisville, the Chief Executive Seminar at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in Tallahassee. For the last 10 years, I've served as second in command and have worked side by side with Sheriff Borders running the day-to-day operations of our 700-member agency. 700 of the most professional employees in the state of Florida that go to work every day to serve you, to keep the quality of life in this county good. Thank you. You know, I'm a family man. I've been married to my high school sweetheart for over 26 years. We have a daughter who's a senior at the University of Central Florida. Go Knights. Is there a Knight here? And my son is a sophomore in high school. You know, for the last 23 years, while working at your sheriff's office, because that's something the sheriff and I preach, it's your sheriff's office, I have supported this community. I will continue to support this community. But most importantly, I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida. I ask for your vote on August the 30th. Peyton Grinnell, the most qualified candidate. Thank you.
By the way, that is our undaunted timekeeper, Carol. She'll tell you when 30 seconds is left, and when time is up, you will know. All right, Andre.
Good afternoon. My name is Andres. Everybody calls me Andre, but it's Andres Obregon. I'm a Republican candidate for sheriff, and I am the only candidate up here that can tell you I am in local, federal, and international law enforcement. When we speak about terrorism, that's what I've been doing for the past 15 years. For the past 15 years, I've been working anti-terrorism. As a matter of fact, I was leaving tomorrow morning on a mission to the Middle East that just got canceled. So if anybody wants to meet with me next week, it's wide open. I plan on leaving. But anyway, I am from Lake County. I grew up here in Lake County. I grew up in Yalaha, between Yalaha and Okahumpka, south of Leesburg. I started my law enforcement career with the City of Eustis. I'm a former United States Border Patrol agent. I'm a former International Witness Protection agent when Milosevic was on trial. And I've lived in Beirut. I've lived in Amman, Jordan. I've been throughout the Middle East. Right now, I'm assigned to the U.S. Embassy out of Mexico City doing missions in Central America. So when we talk about anti-terrorism, I know what I'm talking about. That's what I do. I instruct in anti-terrorism. And I want to see all of the deputy sheriffs trained in what anti-terrorism really means, the meaning of it. It comes in 3 stages. The second stage is for us, is to hurt us in law enforcement. Not only law enforcement, but all first responders, fire department, EMS. I want to take the sheriff's department and move it forward. I am the best qualified. We all say we're qualified, but I am by far the best qualified candidate there is. And if you look into our backgrounds, you will understand why. Read about us, understand about us, and make your choice. And if you choose the best qualified man up here, you will give me your vote August 30th. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dan.
Hey. And again, good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to the RTNC. You all know what that is, don't you? Republican Tavares Neighborhood Convention Night. All right. Would somebody bring the teleprompter up here? I don't know what my notes are. But anyway, in all seriousness, mine's a little shorter than these other 2 gentlemen. Now, my campaign is not about politics. I'm a candidate running for the most important office in the county. My campaign is about people's lives, safety, and service. I'm the only one here that's both an insider and an outsider. An outsider meaning I retired with Orange County Sheriff's Office after 38 consecutive years. Prior to that, I was in Ohio on the largest sheriff's office for 6 years at Franklin County and transferred down here. So I came from the major league. Major league means 1 million people population or over. And my goal is to protect people, serve the community, and be 100% constitutional. I'm not a politician. I'm not politically correct. I'm not status quo. But I'm for change. I'm for progress. I'm for excellence. And I'm a public servant. My total years, counting military, is 50 years as a public servant. And I'd like to continue that and bring my expertise here to Lake County. The insider part of me is, to a certain degree, I've lived in Sumter County for 6-7 years, and I've also lately lived in Mineola, Lake County for 15. So I've been out here and I've earned an opportunity to run for your sheriff. Now I want to thank you for this opportunity, and if there's any questions later, I'll be glad to answer them either up here or out in the audience later. Thank you.
I've been perusing through some of the audience questions here, and some of them are basically the same as the first question I have on the list. And we'll start with Andre, since we started with Peyton. The first question, like I say, it's our formal questions and on some of the audience cards, deals with the budget. The Sheriff's Department has by far the largest budget of all Lake County constitutional officers. Are you willing to make your entire budget available, transparent to the public? How and when? What would you do in that case?
You know, from the get-go, from the start, I'm the first candidate to say that I would put the budget online, either updated monthly or quarterly. I think everyone should know where the money's going, how it's spent. From the outside looking in, I see a lot of waste. Okay, when we have our staff driving around $55,000, $60,000 Silverados, why not put them in a car? Cut that in half or almost half, and to include fuel economy. So we can eliminate a lot of waste, but that needs to be addressed and that needs to be online so that everyone can see where the money's going. I think that that would be the best thing to do. It's your money, my money too. I pay taxes in this county, but I don't think that it should be hidden in any way. It should be out in the open. Thank you.
Dan?
Well, I'm not an accountant, so I would hire somebody who would handle all that in the sheriff's office. My expertise is law enforcement. But I agree with Andre. It should be transparent. It's your money. It should be spent wisely. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the budget from A to Z and decide what I believe is valid and what isn't, and cut where I need to cut and add where I need to add and balance it out.
Peyton?
Thank you. Yes, I put the budget online. I want you to see that you spend $3.5 million a year for inmate health care. Did you know that? That 960-bed county jail that the sheriff runs for the Board of County Commissioners is a third of our budget. I want you to know where your tax dollars are going. But I also want you to know that for the 5th year in a row, the crime rate in unincorporated Lake County has gone down because it costs money to have adequate public safety. And I'll monitor that, stay on top of it, but the budget would be online. Thank you.
You guys are going quick. We don't run out of questions. Okay, we'll start with Dana for this next question. It appears that all of you are qualified to be the next sheriff of Lake County, but in your opinion, what makes you more qualified than the other sheriff candidates?
Well, I don't want to brag, but I'm smarter than these two guys. No, actually, I believe I was 10-8 on Midnight Patrol when Peyton was 3 years old. And I've been in the business for 44 consecutive years. That's unheard of. I've done everything from A to Z almost. Very little I haven't done. And you've got a small resume in the yellow brochure I left there, and it gives you basically a rundown. And I think that number one, you have to work for a sheriff's office to be the sheriff. Number two, I think you need to be very well-rounded, have good morals, good common sense, have compassion, but be bold and be strong. And I want to tell everybody in here, I was from the big league, Orange County. Like it or not, it's a whole lot busier, a whole lot more dangerous, and I learned a whole lot more over in Orange County to prepare myself for this opportunity. So I have been on the road, been detective, been there, almost any position you can imagine, done anything you can imagine. So I think I am well qualified. I have the maturity level, and I have the age going on my side. I'm in excellent condition. And most important, I am a Christian, and I guide myself every day by God's Word.
Because I've been trained by the best sheriff in the state of Florida. That's why I'm most qualified. For the last 10 years, I've worked side by side with him. And when elected your next sheriff for this county, I'll hit the ground running. I already have the relationships with the county commissioners that are in place, with our constitutional officers. I understand the inner workings of that 700-member agency. Thank you to the employees for being here tonight, supporting me. I have the employees' support. I care about this county. I'm passionate about this county. When we go home at the end of our day, we have the same issues you do. Our family lives here. Our kids go to school here. We have a vested interest to make sure that the quality of life in this county remains high. You look right next door at that $1 million county that I won't name over there, and they make us look good on television every day. Every day. But ladies and gentlemen, that's right next door. And the 12 police departments and the deputy sheriffs in this county do a good job keeping that crime over there. Thank you.
You know, but the only thing I can say is, hell, if you can't see who the best is up here, I don't know what. But I'm the one that's got the well-rounded background, local. I've been with the Sheriff's Department here, federal and international. And I think that bar none, I am the best qualified man for the job. I'm the man to move this Sheriff's Department forward into the future because, ladies and gentlemen, there is not much of a future out there. We have time to come. We don't have much of a future. There's a lot of pockets of bad people out there that are called sleepers. And I'll tell you what, just driving around, you can identify a lot of them. All it takes is a little bit of knowledge on what to look for. So as far as that goes, I am the best qualified man for the job, without a doubt. And I hope that every one of you can see that, because I need your vote. I need your support. August 30th, I want to put an end to the good old boy system. Okay, I'm not being endorsed by any local politicians, which should tell you I will not be a member of any clique or part of the good old boy system. I'm doing this for the right thing. I'm running for you. I'm running to protect this county. I'm not running to save my job. I've got a hell of a job. I travel around the world. But I want to be sheriff of this county. That's the only thing that's eluded me in my career, is becoming sheriff of Lake County. Thank you.
Well, that'll segue into this next question I have. Start with Peyton. Based on the increasing number of attacks by radical Muslims, what actions will you take to protect the citizens of Lake County from such terrorism?
Well, if I could just be candid, a deputy sheriff knows how to kill a terrorist. And I'm not trying to be funny. We know how to kill a terrorist, okay? But you have to know who they are. And we have in place, through the Joint Terrorism Task Force and the Region 5 Domestic Security Task Force, we have in place intelligence liaisons that keep us up to date daily. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to scare you, but it is in this county. We go out and knock on doors at the request of the FBI to do verifications on suspected information that comes out. I can't go into great detail about it, but I will tell you that the sheriff has 2 detectives that are sworn in with federal credentials that monitor that, and we do a good job of keeping up on it. The sheriff had his command center at the Pulse nightclub shooting for the entire week down there, because we are part of Region 5. Every sheriff helps each sheriff in the state of Florida when something of any magnitude happens, whether it be the Groundhog Day tornadoes in 2007, like Orange County Sheriff then Kevin Berry came over and helped us out in Lake Mac, and the Sheriff's Command Center was in Lady Lake. Trust, we have in place mechanisms here locally. If we know who they are and we get the information, we'll stop the threat. Thank you.
The way to stop terrorism is to end political correctness. Bottom line, no matter what you have in place, political correctness will always tie you up. You know, we can have titles, we can have offices with names. That means absolutely nothing. It's about intelligence, and you have to share that intelligence, because keeping intelligence to yourself is absolutely doing nothing for the community. But political correctness is destroying this country. I see it everywhere I go, everywhere I travel. And I'll tell you what, we put an end to it. We know better. The group, I hope that everybody in here that's a Republican knows better about political correctness. But you know what? We're not united. We don't unite. We just talk about it. And the thing about it is, we bend rules and we gave in to all of those little minority groups. And when I say minority groups, I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about little interest groups. And I'll tell you what, they have become the majority. And right now, they will not give in to us. It's their way or the highway. And I'll tell you right now, I don't think what happened at the polls was a terrorist act. That was a hate crime. That was a confused guy that didn't know whether he was AC/DC or what he was. And I'll tell you right now, there are 3 stages to a terrorist act. I teach and I train in anti-terrorism. There are 3 stages. There was only 1 stage. So I don't think that was a terrorist act. Obviously, it's called a terrorist act by the FBI. I'll leave it alone. I'm not going to argue with them. What's done is done. Thank you.
Well, basically, I would review, evaluate, and reorganize whatever the Lake County Sheriff has now and upgrade that. I would develop a network system, if they don't have one in place, with all the small municipalities and all the surrounding sheriff's offices, the state and the feds, because I think it's a joint, adventure to go out and fight this type of crime. And we can't do it alone in Lake County. Cities can't do it alone, state can't do it alone, and federal can't do it alone. We all need each other. So this would be a unity thing on my part.
I forgot to do Andy's normal opening and say, yeah, please turn your cell phones off unless you're waiting for an organ transplant. Then you can keep them on.
What? No, I didn't bring it. I'm going to sit in the car.
All right, I'm going to do an audience question, but there's 4 of them here, but I'm going to show you how similar they are so you can see that this is definitely a concern of the group here. So let me read the 4 questions. We're going to start with Andre. Do you believe the county sheriff should be informed before any federal agent enters the state to carry out law enforcement actions? Do you feel that sheriffs are the line between our federal government and state citizens? Are you a constitutional sheriff? And do you believe the sheriff has authority overreaching the federal government in our state? So you can see there's a common theme amongst a lot of the audience there. So
I definitely believe that the sheriff should be notified anytime a federal agency comes in. I can tell you that I will be a constitutional sheriff. And constitutional sheriff is there to protect you, to take the heat for you, from you, away from you. And I'll tell you, it's to me, the sheriff is the high sheriff of the county. He's the man. He's the one in charge, and no federal authority should come in and tell him what to do. Thank you.
Yes, I believe that the federal agents should always notify the sheriff's office and let the sheriff know that they are coming to town. I also believe that the sheriff is the last thing between us and the federal government. And I think you need a strong sheriff who's going to stand up for that Constitution. And even though sometimes the wrong laws are passed, I still think the sheriff needs to go ahead with the Constitution first. Just like the carried concealed weapons and the open carry. I think the sheriff is important. I think the sheriff should be the main person who decides on a stand your ground case, not some slick sleeve deputy out here that's going to make an arrest to a citizen that protects himself from death, but the deputy feels he has to make an arrest to protect his job. If I'm sheriff and there's a stand your ground crime, the policy is going to be you will call me or one of my staff members out, and we will come to the scene and make a decision, because we want to protect you and give you the strength that you need to protect yourself, so you're not afraid of intimidation or going to jail because you did the right thing. I've seen it happen before in Orange County when young deputies just made the arrest because they didn't wait and get senior advice, and then it happened over in Sanford even. So if I'm sheriff, that will change.
Yes, on the constitutional sheriff. What was the other one? The other 2? I got sidetracked.
should the sheriff be informed before any federal agency enters?
Yes, they should. But I will tell you that there have been times in the past where that hasn't happened. But there's always been a good explanation, because the sheriff has a great working relationship with the state and federal officers here in Florida. And I am an NRA member. It sounds like a questionnaire. Those questions sounds like a questionnaire I sent back. But thank you.
Okay, well, since you mentioned the NRA, I'll segue into this question right here, starting with Dan. Would more gun control be helpful to law enforcement in Lake County, and should ownership be further regulated or restricted?
It's a tough question. I'm going to ask Sheriff Borders to come up and answer that. Now, we got to have a little fun here, Sheriff. I appreciate you being here tonight. You know, I repeat that question one more time. I want to make sure I get it in my mind.
Sure. Would more gun control be helpful to law enforcement in Lake County? And should gun ownership be further regulated or restricted?
Well, I don't believe gun control should be further regulated and controlled. I think we got enough laws and regulations and all that. And, you know, we can't take the rights away from the citizens that are good in this county. We need to protect them and stand up for it. So my position is, you know, we got enough laws on the books now. Any other part of that? I'm sorry.
Would more gun control be helpful to law enforcement in Lake County?
Depends on what side of law enforcement fence you're coming from. Part of the law enforcement world would say yes. Part of the law enforcement would say no. You know, I'm not afraid of having citizens out there and having protection because I look at it like that. You're on my side. You're a good citizen. You're out there to help me.
What's helpful to law enforcement here in Lake County is, at least we were third in the state of Florida for the number of concealed weapon permits issued in Lake County. And the sheriff provides fingerprinting free to our residents for that service. And more gun control, we've got enough of that. And the only thing that's going to stop a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun. It's that simple. It's a matter of fact.
You know, I have to agree with these two guys. Why more gun control? I think we have enough of it. What I would like to see is a little more of a stricter background on the people that get the gun permits. I know a couple that shouldn't have them, but yet they somehow got their hands on a permit. So as far as that goes, no more gun control, but we do need to have a little bit stricter background checks.
You guys are good. You keep segueing right into good questions here. I like it. This is an audience question. As you can see, it's a little bit long, so hopefully keep up with me. I'll try to be as clear as I can. It's about concealed carry. We're going to start with Peyton. And he wants to know, what are the best practices for licensed concealed carry gun owners under the following situations? Driving a traffic stop, what are deputies expecting and what instructions will they issue, and what information will they want? So concealed carry person is pulled over by a deputy for traffic and there's a concealed weapon permit, what information they want. And it also says, if a concealed weapon holder is engaged in a public intervention where they are engaged in an active shooting before law enforcement arrives, what steps or actions should the concealed weapon holder take to avoid being shot by the LEO? Is that LEO?
Law enforcement officer.
Sorry. Law enforcement officer. That acronym, I have a cat named Leo. So
You joke with a cat.
okay, that's basically it. About concealed weapons, traffic stops, or prior intervention.
If I miss anything, just remind me.
Okay.
But, you know, we do live in the best county in the state of Florida. Our deputies understand, or we assume, that every vehicle we stop, there's a firearm in the car. Just matter of fact, that's how we operate. And if you do have a firearm in a car and you're a concealed weapons permit carrier, which I hope everybody in here is, when you go to get your license or your registration, let them know. If it's in your glove box, just let them know. We deal with that every day out here. We are professional. We understand how to deal with that circumstance. The issue of an active shooter, and we get there after the fact, comply with law enforcement commands. It's really that simple. When they pull up on scene and tell you to drop a weapon, drop the weapon. Or if they tell you to put your hands up, put your hands up. If you comply with law enforcement commands, the chance of you getting hurt is almost zero. But we're not seeing that across this nation. We're not seeing people comply with law enforcement's lawful orders. That's the problem. And they're trying to make it out to be something that it's not. Did I miss anything?
No.
Thank you.
You know, I have to completely agree with Peyton on that one. You know, what else can I say? The only thing I can add is when you get pulled over, just keep your hands on the steering wheel where they can be seen. Then advise that you have a weapon and you're a card carrier. Don't make any sudden moves and make the law enforcement officer nervous, because we are nervous when we approach that vehicle. Because the most dangerous time for law enforcement is when they approach it the second time. When you go up to the vehicle the second time, that is the most dangerous point, because that's when you let your guard down a little bit because the person was nice. So just be aware, but there's really nothing to add to that answer. That answer was perfect. I don't know what else to say.
All law enforcement officers, LEOs, should know that in officer safety, every time you approach a citizen, no matter what, you assume that citizen may have a gun or a weapon, especially in a vehicle. The officer's responsibility is to assume that and proceed with officer safety guidelines, directions, and policies. Unfortunately, law enforcement in many areas over my career of 44 years, law enforcement has failed to educate the public. Perfect example. When the tasers came out, we started using the tasers before the public knew even what they were, and it got out of control. We should have came out and educated the public first with the tasers so the public understood what they were all about, that they weren't a lethal weapon unless there's circumstances with drugs and so forth. As far as coming up on a shooting situation for a citizen and the police roll up, that's a very big situation with a lot of possibilities. But the main thing is, a citizen, when the police cars roll up, they should be putting that gun down and hands up and saying, I'm the citizen, I'm protecting myself, and try to convince that officer as quick as they can that they're the good person. But that's a really, really tough call out there on the scene. We don't know who is the good guy and who's the bad guy.
You timed that good. Okay, Andre. Do you support the use of body cameras for sheriff's deputies in Lake County? Why or why not?
I definitely support it. I think that it's a no-brainer. You know, that's gonna, if you're a professional law enforcement officer who's going to do your job properly, you're going to follow rules and regulations and guidelines, obviously you'd have no problem carrying a camera. If you have a problem carrying a camera, that means you have something to hide.
Again, the law enforcement community would be split on that. My position is this: if you consider they're better to use and to have the best they can be used is better than nothing, at least have a shot at keeping the officer innocent and making him be more restrictive of what he or she is doing. The downside of it is the public don't understand the maintenance, the purchase price, the damages that can occur when they're out there in the field, and also you get a lot of this running and moving and fluttering and all that, and a lot of times those cameras don't come out positive at all. But on my point of view, I would rather have them than not have them. So if you're running for county commissioner, give me enough money for the budget, I'll get them.
There's definitely pros and cons to the body camera, and we have some out in the field now that we're testing and evaluating. But let me ask you a question, ma'am. Are you comfortable with me coming into your home with that body camera on and interviewing your granddaughter, who just may have reported that she was a victim of sexual battery, and me videoing that, so then maybe the media can get stuff that's not redacted? And my point with that question is, we still have a lot of work to do on that issue when it comes to body cameras out there. As to if the deputy can cut it off and on, or the police officer can cut it off and on, then where's the validity in court? When the defense attorney says, why did you cut your camera off 30 seconds before? Well, I was in the lady's home and she didn't want me talking to her daughter with the body camera on because she was saying some very private information. So now you get into the whole validity of testing it back and forth with the off and on. It does have pros. We've seen it, but there's a lot of issues there that need to be worked out.
domestic violence crimes in Lake County are increasing, more so around the holidays. What can you tell us about our current domestic violence crimes unit, and do you believe it is adequate? How many members of the Sheriff's Department serve the community in this area? Well, that's kind of a direct question to somebody that works there, but anyhow, so to address domestic violence and what we can do to curb that.
Well, the biggest thing we can do is separate men from women, and we won't have that anymore. Beyond that, I'm not so sure that we can bring that down lower, because that's a personal and a private thing between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, a boyfriend and a boyfriend, or a girlfriend and a girlfriend, or whoever, whatever, however anymore. So I don't know how in the world you can reduce domestic violence. I've watched it climb over the 44 years I've been in there, and I've worked neighborhoods where the children's picked up on what the family's done, and they've seen it, and they pick up and do it, and you go to call after call after call, where whoever calls, before we take the other person out the door, the person that calls is on our back fighting us not to take that person to jail. So I don't know what the answer is on that. It's just one of those things.
I know, Mr. Price, you said that it was going up, and there are a lot of variables that cause that number to go up, but one of which that we identified, and the sheriff went and met with Judge Nackey not too long ago, was to start Veterans Court here in Lake County. Because we were finding that our veterans that are coming back from overseas have PTSD, and a lot of that, it just turns right into a domestic situation in the home. So we took a proactive stance, if you will, of getting on board with this Veterans Court to try to redirect some of that to the appropriate place instead of sitting in the county jail for 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. But we partner with the Haven. The good news is that in the state of Florida, if a deputy sheriff goes to the house for domestic violence and we know who the primary aggressor is, we don't have a choice. We put them in jail. We remove them from that situation, and then we hope through the ministry program that the sheriff has in the jail, Good News Jail Ministry Program, that we're able to reach out to those people and get them the help that they need. Too often we incarcerate people, but we don't backfill that, and that's where we need to really step up. Thank you.
You know, that's somewhat of an unfair question for me and Dan.
Yeah.
You know, you have to. Every deputy sheriff, every law enforcement officer, obviously deals with that. So I don't know if there's a special unit for that. I've never heard of one, but everybody that works the road deals with that. And it is a mandatory arrest for the aggressor. And you know what else? What else can you do? You know, it's as far as the military vets. What I want to do is I want to have one veteran that's on call to deal with those type of calls, those type of situations. You know, somebody that knows how to do it, and somebody that's been there and has the knowledge. And I have already a person in mind that I want to ask, if I do get elected, to volunteer and be on call for me whenever we deal with veterans. Because there is a problem, they need help, and it's a special type of help, because these guys went out and served our country, and then to come back and be mistreated by us is not right. We need to protect them too. Thank you.
Okay, Peyton. What are the main illicit drug issues, and what steps can the Drug Enforcement Bureau take to curb such use?
Believe it or not, right now it's heroin. Heroin's made a comeback. And the reason for that, it's cheaper. You know, the state of Florida did a good job of cracking down on the illegal pill mills. Well, it drove the price of those pain pills through the roof. So now people are going back to heroin. And we run operations every year where we target our street-level drug dealers. And we put over 100 people every year in jail. And what we hope is that when we put them in jail, and it's their 5th, their 6th, their 7th, their 8th, their 9th, their 10th arrest, is that at some point in time, they stay in jail. Because what happens is, not only is the deputy frustrated, but it's a revolving door. So we target our street-level drug dealers. Our drug unit does a great job of going up the chain. We have people in the HIDTA task force. We have people work with ICE. We have U.S. Marshals involved. And we target our drug dealers. But we need to keep them in jail. That's what we need to do. Or get them in a place where they can get the help that they need.
You know, one of my goals is going to be to eradicate drugs from Lake County. I know it sounds far-fetched, but I think it can be done. I'm going to work hard on getting rid of all the drugs off the streets and getting rid of the big-time players. As a matter of fact, tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, I have a meeting with a group of people that are sick and tired of the meth problem here in Lake County. So I meet with them tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning, because I'll tell you what, that has touched everybody in one way or another. A brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, it's hit me at home. You know, I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to believe it when I was told 4 months ago. Well, one of my daughters got in trouble by the sheriff's department here a couple months ago. And, you know, so once it hits home, it's a reality. You know, at the age of 16, she moved away. She moved away with her mother. She wanted to live with mom because my rules were too strict at home. And ever since, she's been in and out of trouble. What can I do? I cannot hold the hand of a 25-year-old. You know, her twin sister is doing great, just graduated with a degree in criminal justice. But the other one is getting in trouble, twins. You know, I wish I could just go grab her, handcuff her, and bring her home, but then I'm in trouble. So, you know, what can you do? You got to target the big players and not just the users.
I don't disagree with either of these gentlemen's philosophy on drugs, but I come at it at a different angle. It's not a popular one. It's a gut statement one, but I'm going to be honest with you. Drugs are an epidemic in this country, in this state, and in this county. I think the United States, right or wrong, good or bad, is moving toward minimizing drug incarceration type arrests. I think you're going to see in the future where they're going to change the laws, and a lot of these drug abusers, not the drug dealers, but the drug abusers, are not going to go to jail that often. I think that's going to be a changing trend. It's impossible to stop drugs. We got to fight it daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, do the best we can, work with all the other agencies and do what we can do. But it's out of control. I lost a 34-year-old daughter over a drug overdose. She left me with 4 grandchildren to help raise. I've been through a lot of that. It's just about an impossible thing to cure people that's on drugs. But the main thing is, if we could stop the drug transporting into the country and the drug dealers, we'd be better off. But it's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
And you're really good about timing it just perfect.
Watching her.
Well, and this, based on what you were saying, Dan, this kind of goes into this next question, which we're going to start with Andre. Are you in favor of possession of a small amount of marijuana, such as 20 grams, only being considered a misdemeanor punishable by a fine? Why or why not?
I am in favor of that. I think that a fine would be the way to go. You know, locking somebody up with a minor amount of marijuana is not going to help anything. It's just creating a bigger problem for the jail system. I think that give them a fine, take the marijuana out. You know, how many times have deputy sheriffs in the past dumped the marijuana out on the side of the road and just say, okay, get out of here? It's been done hundreds of times. You know, I don't agree that everybody needs to go to jail. I think that there's a lot of people that need help. But a minor amount should be a fine. And I think that Volusia County's got a hell of a system, and I think that's the way to go.
Well, the only thing I can use in reference, obviously, is Orange County Sheriff's Office. I was there 38 years. I worked narcotics, drugs. And like Andre said, more so than not, we threw the marijuana out the window or out in the woods or flushed it down the toilet. And because honestly, whether you like it or not, it was more trouble doing the report and taking the people to jail when they'd be back out before you could get the report done than it was worth. So I kind of somewhat compare under 20 grams of marijuana with a 6-pack of beer. It depends on the individual, how they handle it, how it affects them. Some people can drink a 6-pack of beer and they're okay. Some people can drink it, 6-pack, and they want to fight, or drunk drivers or whatever. So everything depends on the person, their makeup, attitude, and all that. But in general, I think we're moving also toward, like it or not, citations issued, fines given. So that's where I stand on that situation.
I'm not in favor of a fine, and I'll tell you why. Deputies already have discretion out there when they come into contact with this person that has the less than 20 grams of marijuana on them. So they have that discretion. But let me tell you what they do with that discretion. Because they could issue them a misdemeanor notice to appear in court or arrest them and take them to jail. But they develop a CI, a confidential informant, because they establish a rapport with this person that turns into a bigger drug bust, that turns into a bigger drug bust. So I believe if you go to a mandatory fine, what you're going to end up doing is taking away a tool that we have that almost all the time leads to something bigger and better. We get that trust with them there, and if we can turn them to find out where that dope came from, we can. If they need to go to jail, we can take them to jail. It's a good tool to have for an enforcement aspect of it.
I like your rebuttal on that.
Oh, okay. 30-second rebuttal.
I think that it's nothing about mandatory. Okay, it's giving a ticket to somebody, but at the same time, you can still develop the CI. You can still develop the contact. There's many ways of doing it. I work DEA, so there are many ways of doing things. It's not just a one direct line of way of doing it. We need to try to help the public. Law enforcement has lost touch with reality. We are out there to protect, to serve, but at the same time to help the public.
Can I rebut that?
Sure.
The sheriff has a work in lieu of arrest, WILA program, to where we can issue a citation to that juvenile that's caught with that marijuana. They have to go to the sheriff's work farm and shovel crap for 5 Saturdays in order to get their record. But they don't have a criminal record. But the sheriff makes them work, and that's a great program.
We use that for public.
Dan, do you want to rebut or move on to the next one?
I think we'll move on.
Okay, because it's your turn. Audience question for you, Dan. What will your administration do to address human trafficking, and what is the correlation between human trafficking and youth homelessness?
Who's writing these questions? These are legal.
That's an audience question.
Is there an attorney in here? Well, I think that's another deal where you have to work with the state and federal agents and develop a departmental policy and a team to work together in a network. It's another one of those tough calls. And they usually stumble across it, or they get informants that let us know about it. And what was the other half of that?
You caught me just as I was going to take a sip of water.
Take a sip.
The correlation between human trafficking and youth homelessness.
Well, a lot of it is runaway children that end up getting involved with the pimps that pimp them out there in the public. So I think a lot of it is because it's a runaway or they're defiant children, and that's what gets them in trouble and develops moving on further with that.
The sheriff already has in place detectives and a special victims unit that belong to the Human Trafficking Task Force. And we run these operations to where, believe it or not, we go after prostitution. It's not the prostitution that you're used to. It's not the people on the street corners. It's all online now. Craigslist, backdoor ads, things like that. We will go and we will rent a hotel room and we will get on the internet and we will solicit prostitutes. Our very first operation doing that, we rescued, I believe she was 14, a 14-year-old girl that was kidnapped the day before down in South Florida and was brought there by a pimp to prostitute herself out. She had been drugged, she had been raped, and we saved her life. She had only been with that guy for one day. We run these operations and we share this information, this intelligence throughout the Central Florida area, and we find it to be very effective. But the homeless women, they fall prey to it because they're lured in, they're given things, and then once they get them on the dope, it's terrible. And but that's the reason we do these prostitution stings, is because that's where you're going to find out who's been trafficked. You will catch them.
You know, that's another question that was meant for the person from within the agency. But I'll tell you what, I got a question for the deputy sheriffs that are in here. How many of you have ever heard of Club 21? Raise your hand if you have. Have you ever heard of Club 21? Club 21 is a club that's here in Florida. They move them around. And this is intelligence from the State Department. There was one in Sorrento. There was one in Mascot. There was one in Bellevue. They move them around. Club 21, they call it Club 21 because it's a $20 act and one for the condom. So it's Club 21. They're all over the place. They kidnap the girls from Central America, from South America. They bring them here. They take the pretty little blonde girls from here down there because they're exotic in different places that they go to. So that exists. That needs to be worked hard. But then again, you know, you can have all the intelligence in the world placed in one area. If you don't share it, if you don't have it from other agencies, it does you absolutely no good. This comes from the U.S. Department of State.
Well, this next question kind of piggybacks on that theme. Peyton, we'll start with you. What can be done to protect our children from internet pedophiles?
Absolutely. You know, we run these operations all the time, kind of like you've seen on Dateline, To Catch a Predator, where we go in and we rent houses and our detectives go online and literally pose to be 12, 14-year-old kids. And I don't want to scare you, but it's like shooting fish in a barrel. We could put 10 more detectives in that unit and stay busy. It's that bad. And that's why, you know, the sheriff has a school resource deputy in every middle school and high school in this county. And we teach cyber safety at our middle school. We teach bullying at our middle school. And we provide a DVD to all of our parents, to grandparents, or to parents and grandparents, so they can take that DVD home and put it in their child's computer and find out where that child is going on the internet, what pictures they're looking at, who they're talking to, what blog sites they're going to, because we believe that parents should know that stuff. And 77 million teenagers go online every day in this state, or in this nation. 77 million. One out of every seven is contacted by an adult for bad things. And that's why we take it out into our community and we share this information with our youth so they'll know how not to be a victim on the internet.
You know, I think I need a tape recorder to tell you every time. That's an internal question again. The only thing I can tell you is that, you know, if the sheriff has this in place, I will continue doing it. I always wanted to work similar to Polk County Sheriff. I think that's one hell of a sheriff. That's a real man right there, and that's the way to go.
Well, obviously, I don't work for the Lake County Sheriff's Office, so I don't know what they do, but it sounded great what Peyton is expressing, and I agree with what he said. And also, kind of put that on the same level, in a sense, with drugs in a way. It's just out of control. The internet is unstoppable, and it's not absolute, but I think the main place for curbing that or helping it calm down is through the parents or the legal guardians. If the parents aren't responsible, then that kind of situation is unstoppable, in my estimation.
Okay. I'm trying to keep the questions general as I can, believe it or not. Because if I asked you specifically about, what is Lake County doing about this, you two on the end here probably wouldn't know. So I've been trying to be general. And here's an audience question. We're going to start with Andre. It says, do you support your deputies administering and carrying heroin anti-shots?
Damn, you got me on that one. I would support anything that's going to help the community, obviously. That's about all I can say about that.
Okay, that is a relatively new procedure that's came out recently in some of the larger agencies. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a nurse practitioner. I'm not a physician. I can't really speak that much on that. But I'm not sure that that's the deputy sheriff's job on the street. We put too much on the deputy sheriffs in the 21st century, folks. We want the deputy sheriff to be everything from A to Z, and that's really not what we're out here for. We're out here for protection and service.
Let me ask Mr. Price a question. Is that like the Narcan or what they're talking about there? Is that what that is? If it is, we just had a vendor come in not too long ago and sat down with us to try to get it and started at a supervisor level. I would support that at least a supervisor level, if not coming down, because we go to a lot of overdoses in this county. And oftentimes we beat an ambulance there or we beat a fire truck there. So if it's one more tool that we have that we can save a life and we can afford it in the budget, then we would do it.
Okay. Now we're going to start with Dan. What can the Sheriff's Department do to stop school violence and cyberbullying and enhance school security?
Well, when I was a school resource officer for 5 years, we had the bullying classroom in place for the deputy, and it worked out fairly good. I think the Lake County Sheriff's Department has a resource deputy or two in every school, and I think we have to train the deputies to follow through on that and have other professionals come in and teach the sheriff's office through training to help out on that.
Every summer we get with our school board and we do active shooter training throughout this county. There are some police departments that we actually go down and assist them and train their officers as well on active shooter training in the schools. And our school resource deputies, as I mentioned ago, through the Attorney General's office, we teach cyberbullying. We also teach sexting. That's a big deal out there in the schools right now, and these kids don't understand how serious that is once they send that picture to their loved one, and then it gets used against them in a bad, bad way. But, I would tell you that, let's make somebody here mad, but you want to stop the school violence? Grab your kid and be a parent. Be a parent. Now, I understand that there are those occasions where you could have a single parent or something like that. But I'm tired of seeing my deputy sheriffs cussed at when they make an arrest on school grounds by a parent because we're picking on their child who disrupted a school facility. I'm tired of seeing that, and it's time that parents start parenting again.
You don't have to agree with Peyton. I would just add one more thing. I want to say that when things started going downhill was when we took discipline away from the school system. I think we need to give the discipline back to the school system. That way it can start again. And if we started now with kids in first, second, and third grade, in 10 years it would correct itself. It would reverse itself. But school shootings and everything started after we took the discipline from the schools. And there's already a program in place. That's great. That's awesome. But you have to work with the school board on that.
Okay, Peyton. Another audience question. Laws allow the sheriff to confiscate properties of accused people without any trial. Can you explain how this works in the county, and how would you correct practices used in some jurisdictions to seize property without due process?
Well, a sheriff can't seize real estate. We can't seize. The sheriff can't seize real estate. Now we can seize property that's being used or has been an instrument of a felony. We do that all the time through asset forfeiture. I don't know if that answered your question, or maybe I'm not hearing the question correctly.
It's dealing with forfeiture, yes.
Okay. Well, that's how we get some of the nice stuff that we have. We take it from drug dealers. We put our school resource deputies in their drug car, we paint it up, and we show the kids how we got this car. We got it from a drug dealer, and it saves us money. If we can get their $50,000 or $100,000, we're going to take it, because we can use it on training of our deputy sheriffs, and we can get some equipment with it. It helps us subsidize the budget. I think it's a great thing, but I do believe there's due process there, and we do. We serve them with an adversarial preliminary hearing date where they can go in front of a judge and say why we should not have taken that property. And if the judge finds probable cause, it's our property.
What can I say? Repeat what he just said? That's the way it works. That's part of the seizure process. The thing about it is, I'm lost for words right now. I mean, he answered the question, and what am I going to do? Just repeat it? The law is the law. Yeah, that's the way it is.
Peyton did an excellent job answering that question. I have not much at all to add to it, to be honest with you.
Those are questions from within the agency. I mean, we can't...
Okay. We're up to Andre. If you found it necessary to put more deputies on the street, how would you do this without adding more cost to the taxpayer?
Now, that's a question. Very simple. There are 38 bureaus in the Sheriff's Department. We need to consolidate them. We need to look at them. Are they necessary? Because this agency is top-heavy. It is way, way top-heavy. We need to understand that. And there's a unit out there that, to me, is worthless. We need to. It's a dog and pony show for the sheriff on parades, and that's it. What we need to do is take those deputies, put them in cars, put them on the road. I believe it's 8 deputies. We put them on the road. You add 2 more deputies per shift. You don't have to ask for any more money. You don't have to ask for any more people, personnel. They're there. Let's put them to work.
Well, I've maintained for over a year on my campaign that after looking at the Sheriff's Office manpower allocation, that if the voters elect me sheriff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to review, evaluate, and reorganize the Sheriff's Office. I'm going to use some chalkboard talk here. I'm going to erase the chalkboard, and I'm going to build the patrol first. Andre said there's 38 or 39 bureaus on the Sheriff's Office. That's fine and dandy. But I don't think right now we have the manpower or the funds to support all that. Some of those bureaus I'm going to put skeleton crews on or put them on hold and do away with them for a while. I'm going to draw from all the bureaus and all the supervisors and rebuild the patrol. And I can do it without adding taxes, property taxes, or increasing the budget for at least the first term. We do have enough deputies. It's just, in my opinion, they're not in the right place. Folks, if you don't have a patrol, nobody answers your 911 call or your general complaint call. If we don't have a patrol, nobody's out there stopping the reckless drivers and the drunk drivers and so forth. Patrol is the heartbeat of law enforcement. Without that, nothing else matters.
I think one of the units that one of my opponents was referring to was the traffic unit. And I would tell you that that's our number one complaint in Lake County, is traffic and distracted driving. and they do a good job of keeping you alive out there on the highways, getting DUI off the road, getting distracted drivers off the road, getting speeders off the road that are running through our residential neighborhoods, and they can do that on those motorcycles a lot better than they can do it in a patrol car, and it has a community service feel to it where they can shake hands with the public. Now, can I go through that agency and maybe shave a person off of criminal investigations, or maybe shave a person off of the traffic unit, or maybe shave a person off of the special victims unit and put them back in patrol? Absolutely. I'll tell you, I might ask for more deputies if you want to know the truth. That's probably what I'll do, because I believe in keeping the quality of life in this county high. We're 100 less employees today than we were in 2007. And these men and women have done more with less over the last 6 or 7 years and haven't complained one bit. And I am so proud of them. And I'm going to tell you, crime has not slowed down in this county. The 12 police departments and the men and women of the sheriff's office do a good job, but we are stretched thin.
Well, I have a question that you guys have already sort of hit on it, but it will be more so for Andre and Dan. And we'll start with Dan. Do you think the current Sheriff's Department operations needs improvement? And if so, what will you do in the first 90 days of taking office to start improvement?
Speaking on general operations, that's a vague question.
The question that was written by our group says current Sheriff's Department operations. They weren't very specific.
It's a vague question. If the electors of Lake County elect me their next sheriff, I will take the first 120 days to get into the agency, to review it, to reevaluate it, and then make changes as necessary after a full 4 months. I want to give it a fair shot to see where everything stacks up at. I'm sure they got a lot of good things that I don't know about, and I'm sure they got some things that I can improve on because of where I came from. Agree or not, like it or not, I came from the major league. I was on the big agency where we had 1.5 million people, residents. We had 2,500 deputies. And I'm sure there's a big comparison difference between Lake County and Orange County, like it or not. So I bring with me that expertise of the major league with maturity. I've worked for 7 sheriffs, and we want to give the Lake County Sheriff's Office an opportunity to see what they're doing right and what they can be improved on.
You know, at the risk of sounding arrogant, it won't take me 90 days. Day one, I'll hit the ground running. I've been doing it for 10 years with Sheriff Rivers, working side by side with him. And it's very difficult for me to stand up here and tell you what I would change with my boss standing in the back of the room. But, you know, I'm going to put my own brand on a few things. And but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my leadership team in. I don't even have an idea who that is yet. Okay? I'm trying to get past August 30th. But I will assemble a quality leadership team. We have great men and women that are ready to lead that agency. And I'll get them around the table and I'll listen to how we can improve efficiencies, effectiveness, how we can do more with less, all of that. But I'm not going to be that one guy making that decision. I believe that there's power in synergy, and I will get 10 or 12 of us around the room and we will figure it out and get it done. We do that daily at the Sheriff's Office now. Thank you.
Here's the great thing about me being sheriff. First of all, I don't work for the sheriff. I don't have to say how great he is, because I don't think so. I think this agency needs a lot of help. Okay, this agency's been going downhill for the past 10 years. Slowly going downhill. Okay, what we need to do is we need to do a complete change. I want a clean house. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to take over, and I'm going to come in with a new staff, a staff of qualified people, because the first day that I step in that office, you're going to get a professional, well-trained law enforcement officer. You know, I'm not going to be playing little candy games or anything like that. I'm there to enforce the law and do it right. I'm a professional law enforcement officer. I've got the training, I've got the background, and that's what I plan on doing.
Okay. Peyton, audience question. What is your plan to engage the communities across the county so that we minimize the potential for the kinds of conflict being seen in other places in the U.S.?
That's a good question. And, since 2007, one of the things that the sheriff started at the agency, and I think it's a great idea, it's paid dividends for us, is every month we're in a gated community or a community somewhere in this county, somewhere in the 1,156 square miles. We are there, and we address our citizens. We talk to our citizens. We hear what their concerns are. We also do things such as the Sheriff's Citizens Academy, where we bring our citizens in and we show them the behind the scenes of the Sheriff's Office. We show them how we spend their tax dollars. We also have our command staff and other members of our agencies that are involved at the local Rotaries, the local Kiwanis. We are involved in our churches. We have been involved in our community since Sheriff Waters has been sheriff, and that's what we do. We engage this community. You talked about methamphetamine. I don't remember the exact year. I'm going to say it was 2010. We led the Southeast United States in the number of meth labs that were busted. We did that because we went out into the community at our Rotaries, at our chamber breakfasts, at our Kiwanis, and we told our citizens what to look for and to call us. So they would call us. We would go to the house because they said they smelled ammonia next door. We'd knock on the door. Got to open the door. We'd say, "You have a meth lab?" "Yep, sure do." We put them in jail. But that's because of the community engagement, helping us to help them. Thank you.
Read that question for me.
What is your plan to engage the community across the county so that we minimize the potential for the kinds of conflict being seen in other places in the U.S.?
I think we need to have committees from different areas of the county. Different, you can't form a committee of 6-7 people using people from the villages to deal with something that happens down in Stuckey, south of Groveland, or in that area. They're not aware of that. That's not. They've never been there. You have to deal with people from those communities so that you can gain the trust. The key to it is gaining public trust again, but you have to do it through professionalism and treating the public right. You have to treat people the way you want to be treated, and it doesn't matter what walk of life they come from. For example, in Astor, you got people that have to sit there and wait an hour and a half for a deputy sheriff to arrive. Not this year, it's election year, but other years they have to wait an hour and a half. That's ridiculous. That is uncalled for. This is 2016. This is 1950s. We need to make a difference. We need to change.
I believe what the Lake County Sheriff's Office has done for 10 years is very good. I don't think there's a place in this county they've missed, because I've been there campaigning and they've told me, the people, that they've been there for 10 years. So they're doing something right in that area. I guess for me, the main thing I would change to get better cooperation is I would have more of the town hall meetings in different areas of the county and publicize it and get groups like this to come in and tell me as sheriff what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what do they want, what aren't they getting. I believe in the town hall meeting thing. Nothing against gated community, going to a lot of forums we are inside the gated communities, but that's one of the most protected citizens in the county is gated communities. But the churches, nothing wrong with going to the churches. It's a good place to find information out too. But I think larger groups in town hall meetings in specific areas, like Andre said, will give you the real truth of what's going on and what's needed and what we can do. Because certainly South Lake doesn't have the same problem as Lady Lake's got, or Astor don't have the same problem as Minneola's got. We're all different personalities, different people, different situations.
Okay, Andre, I've got an audience question for you. What is your position on placing trained weapon-carrying officers in schools to prevent school shootings?
Okay, you said officers, like school resource officers. They're already there.
Correct.
They're already in place. The Sheriff's Department's got a program already for that. So as far as that goes, of course I support it. I would continue doing it. Now, armed teachers, I don't agree with. But armed officers, that's a different story.
I understand the school resource program in Lake County. I was a school resource deputy for 5 years in Orange County. I think they're a necessary tool, but I don't personally agree as a law enforcement officer with the way the Lake County Sheriff's Office is handling school resource deputies in the schools. And I understand there's a lot of political pressure on this. I understand that a lot of the city police departments don't have the staffing, but I also believe when you put a deputy sheriff, even though it's partially paid by the sheriff and partially paid by the school board, I understand that. But I still think it's the city's responsibilities to have a city officer in the city schools in Lake County. And because for every city that takes a deputy sheriff to their school, it's taken one deputy sheriff on the streets away from the people in the unincorporated area. So if I'm sheriff, I'm going to try to promote the cities to take back their schools and put a city police officer in that school if they're in the city, and let them split the cost with the school board. And let me take my deputies back out and put them on the street to protect you people and to support your taxes that you're paying them to work to support you.
We do have a school resource deputy in every middle school and high school, with the exception of Mount Dora Police Department. As the sheriff does with every city, we give them the option. Mount Dora elected to put officers back into their schools, I think 2 years ago, last year. But we're not going to let our schools go without protection. So if the city can't do it through budgetary means, then we're going to make sure that school's covered and those kids are safe, period. I sit on the safety task force for Lake Sumter State College. I just made a recommendation for them to go with armed security. They're looking at trying to do that in the very, very near future. But I do think it goes right back to what I said before. Only thing that's going to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Okay. Dan, I got an audience question for you. When you are sheriff, how would you provide for constructive criticism without the citizen feeling that raising tough or embarrassing issues will result in recriminations against the citizen?
Well, first of all, if you'll read in my yellow flyer on my short resume, I put in there that I believe I will be the first sheriff in Lake County that has an open door policy. We will have a designated time for the central and north end to come in to see me, and we will have a designated time for the south end of the county. And I think that basically a lot of times the citizens are frustrated, they're afraid to make complaints, they're afraid of retaliation, or they're afraid that nobody is going to hear them. I'm going to hear them. I'm going to have an open door policy, and the buck will stop there. I will not violate somebody's confidentiality, but I will work with them and try to resolve problems that they have out there. And you have to be transparent. You have to be able to tell the people what you've done, what you're doing, and you have to be able to also listen to them of what you haven't done and what they want you to do. So that's my position on that.
Mr. Price, I hate to do this, but can you maybe rephrase that? Because I don't want to assume that I'm answering that the way it's intended. So, Ms. Knighton, don't start my clock yet, please.
Watch out for Carol, so get you. Well, it says, when you are a sheriff, how would you provide for constructive criticism without the citizen feeling that raising constructive criticism will result in some kind of recrimination against them?
Okay, so a victim of a crime wanting to come in and report the crime and not wanting to be criticized because they were a victim of a crime? Did that make sense?
Complaining about some procedure against the sheriff.
I'm assuming it's just an average citizen that
wants to make a complaint. That's fine, and we can. You know, the sheriff, I'll just tell you what we have in place now. He has an email address, sheriff@lcso.org. I shouldn't have said that because everybody go home and email him now, but that'd be funny. Sheriff@lcso.org. He takes those complaints, but he also has that for his employees. Any employee in our agency can email, talk to the sheriff on our website. It's 110% confidential. When I tell you, he doesn't even tell me the email he gets from our employees. He doesn't tell me. It's that simple. He doesn't. So he has that transparency. Citizens come in all the time without an appointment. He opens up the door, sees them, handles their issue, and it's never been a problem. I would be the same exact way. I would have that open door policy with them.
I believe in having a true open door policy where if I'm in the office, any citizen can come in and talk to me. Okay, first of all, I'm dealing with this problem right now. I have a lot of deputies that are supporting me. But if they were here wearing my shirt, oh God, they're scared to death, you know? So I'm dealing with that problem right now, that exact problem. I've got a lot of deputy sheriffs here in Lake County that want me to be their boss. They want me to be the sheriff because they're tired of the staff. They want changes. They're looking for something different, something better. So a true open door policy. Personally, I've called the sheriff's office 6, 7 times in the past. Never got a response. Never got the courtesy of a callback. You know, at first, I was really pissed off at the secretary. You know, but then a friend of hers told me, you know what? She's passing that forward, but they're just not responding to you. So that is uncalled for. That is childish. You don't call a person, even if you're going to lie to them. Tell them whatever. Make something up, but call them back. I'm not saying that's right to lie to somebody, but I've dealt with that problem, and a lot of people have dealt with that problem. I know a lot of people that would be more than happy to come in here and tell you they've dealt with that same problem, and that's uncalled for.
Okay, I'm going to ask just one more question, and then we'll go into the closing statements. But first, I want to see by your applause who in here supports law enforcement. So my question is, and we'll start with Peyton. What do you think is the cause of recent police shootings across the country, and what can be done to stop these senseless acts of violence?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, we do live in the best county in the state of Florida, because you've seen over the last 18 months or 2 years now where a small segment of our nation's population wants to give our noble profession a black eye. And we didn't see that in this county. Our citizens have always supported public safety, so thank you. You gave us a round of applause. I'd like to tell you thank you for your support. But, here's the deal. Social media, the media is the deal. They entertain this small segment of the population where somebody uploads a YouTube video off of their cell phone, and it may be the last 15 or 20 seconds that they uploaded and didn't upload the first 15 or 20 seconds, so they didn't get it recorded as to what prompted that interaction between the law enforcement officer and the citizen. So that goes viral, perception turns to reality, if you will, and people already have a preconceived idea as what took place on that scene before a chief of police or before a sheriff even has the facts of what happened on scene there, because that officer has rights too. It's called the Bill of Rights. We just can't go down there and not afford them due process. But meanwhile, local media has ran with this issue. I don't think it's that big of an issue across this nation. Just shy of 1 million sworn law enforcement officers in the United States of America. That's hundreds of thousands of citizens encounters every day by a member of law enforcement with a citizen that ends peacefully. We hear about the less than 1%.
What do you think is the cause of recent police shootings across the country, and what can be done to stop these senseless acts of violence?
Well, the cause would be distrust of law enforcement. So you have to gain the respect and the trust of the community back. Now, stopping the senseless violence, that is, if somebody wants to hurt you, what are you going to do about it? I mean, it's really tough. We can walk out the door and a sniper's waiting for us. It's really hard, but it's all about trust, the community trusting us, and us providing the right services for them. Because in law enforcement, there's a lot of law enforcement agencies that have a lot of arrogance. I want to take the arrogance out and put professionalism back in. And that's my goal.
Well, that's very controversial. There's a lot of elements involved in that equation. If you got another hour and a half, I could probably get to most of it, but I'm sure everybody's like me, we're ready to go home. But I will say this, I think the lead problem has been the last 7.5 years. It's called Mr. President Obama. Because of Mr. Obama, he has taken our support away from us to a certain degree. He has tried to take our respect away from us to a certain degree. And it's been proven by who he's appointed as the chief law enforcement officer in the country, the Attorney Generals of the United States of America. We've had 2 since he's been in, and they're losers. And it's cost us a lot. It's going to take a new president and a greater Attorney General to correct this, and it's going to take time now. But that's where I believe the heart of this whole thing started, with their president, Barack Obama.
Well, I think we had a record tonight. We got through 21 questions. We've never gotten through that many. So thank you guys for your cooperation. I'm going to do closing statements now, but when you get done, before you go and meet your loyal fans out here, would you stop and pose for a picture? Vance will get our picture, so before y'all go meet with your fans. All right, so we're going to go back in reverse order. So we'll start with Dan with your closing statement. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right. Primary is probably the most important primary we've had in many years, in my opinion. Obviously, because Mr. Borders is leaving office, and he's done a fine job for 10 years. So he's leaving a vacancy here. What I'm asking you to do is, regardless of who you pick tonight or when you go to the voting booth on the 30th, is just go over each individual's record, where they've worked, what education they've had, what training they've had, their age, their maturity level, and all those things, because this is going to be the most important election this year other than president. But this is going to be our most important election because it's Lake County and it's our future. So I believe that, all of us have credentials, all of us have different viewpoints, and all of us believe we're the best. But that's going to really depend on you. So please do your homework and vote the best candidate. Thank you.
Very simple. 3 reasons. Number 1, I am the most experienced man up here. Number 2, I am funding my own campaign. I will owe no favors to nobody. I don't want to be anybody's puppet. I will be the sheriff. Number 3, I am not endorsed by any local candidate, or by, not a candidate, I'm sorry, a politician. I will not be a member of any little clique or any little club. I think that those 3 reasons are the main reasons that you should vote for me August 30th. I will be straightforward like I am now. I'm not polished at all. I'm used to standing in front of 50, 75 military men or national police officers where I go train. So no, I don't have a practice speech. I don't believe in it. I don't want it. Everything that I do is different every time because I want to get a message across that I am real. I'm a real person, and that's the way it's going to be. I'm who I was 20 years ago and who I'll be 20 years from now. Hopefully 20 years. But I'm not going to change at all. I get up every morning, I go hit the gym, I'm fat. I'm fat, but I'm fat, I'm telling you. And it's every morning at 5 o'clock. But you know what? It's there's nothing different here. It's going to be the same. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being here tonight to come and listen to what we have to say. And I did just get an endorsement on my phone from the Lake County Firefighters Professional Union. So I'll take the endorsement, by the way. But let me just tell you, for 23 years of working at this sheriff's office, it's personal for me. I didn't screw up the sheriff calling me in on the Tuesday prior to March the 18th on a Friday, telling me he was going to retire. But I'll tell you what, he's had me in this position for 10 years. and I need to step up. I need to step up for our citizens. I need to step up for our employees of that agency, and that's what I'm going to do. He would not expect anything less of me. I have served on the Habitat for Humanity. I have served for the Lake Sumter State College Board, still on it. Served for the Boys and Girls Club Board, still on it. Been through Leadership Lake County. This is my county. It's personal for me. I don't just stand up here and talk about what I'm going to do when elected sheriff. I've been doing it ever since I've been here in Lake County. This is a great county. It needs to stay a great county, and we are in trying times right now. So when you go in on August the 30th and you vote for Peyton Grinnell, because on day one, I'll hit the ground running. I have the knowledge, skills, and abilities necessary to provide you efficient, effective law enforcement services so we can maintain the great quality of life that we have in this county. Thank you very much.
Can I say something? I was just going to say, I've been making a video of this, and it'll be on a YouTube channel, Fiscal Rangers, Florida, because I write the blog Fiscal Rangers, and that's the end of that speech.
All right, thanks, Vance. And one last round of applause for our candidates.